What's your thoughts on government cover-ups or covert societies attempting to control humanity? Do you believe in ancient astronauts, intergalactic communication, or extraterrestrial visitations? Ever had an experience with disembodied spirits or the paranormal universe? Are these subjects fact or fiction? Each week, Tony and Eddie explore these unbelievable realities and beyond. Exclusively on Truth Be Told.
Welcome back to Truth Be Told, where we believe an experience becomes truth. I'm your host, Tony Sweet, with world-renowned psychic Eddie Connor, and tonight's co-host, the handsome Walt Lusk.
Well, thanks, Tony. We thank you for supporting our sponsors, and for over 40 years, Earth-Friendly Products have brought you the greatest home products for all your family needs. All you need to do is go to ecos.com. That's ECOS.com.
And while you're online, take your mind on a literary journey right on over to adventuresunlimitedpress.com to purchase books from many of our famed experts featured right here on Truth Be Told.
And if you all remember last week's show with Grant Cameron, we talked about UFOs and presidential encounters. Well, we have someone that descends from one of our beloved presidents.
That's right. Laura is an intuitive astrologist, global alchemist, and cosmic mythologist. She's also the great-granddaughter of Dwight D. Eisenhower. She is on a profound mission to reveal our true origins, which are connected with the Magdalene and Gaia Sophia energies of love and wisdom. She's also working to liberate us from the military-industrial complex.
And she is also a whistleblower, has been speaking out about being recruited to go to a colony on Mars that represented a timeline that she refused to go along with.
And she also has been able to uncover some necessary truths and agenda that humanity is being kept in the dark about. So she's also doing lectures and workshops on these issues.
And we can't wait to find out more. Laura's speaking on topics such as global alchemy, Christ Sophia, sacred union, ET races, and esoteric cosmology, as well as the positive timeline, and she seeks to empower individuals so that harmony can be restored. Please welcome to Truth Be Told with Tony, Walt, and Eddie, Laura Eisenhower.
Welcome, welcome, Laura.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
We are so excited to have you here, and I don't know if you remember a few years ago you were on my show, and I was very, very impressed with who you are as a person, and I'm so glad to have you back to find out what's going on in these last few years in this crazy world of ours.
Yeah, what's new? What's new, different, and exciting aside from yourself?
Oh gosh, good question. Yeah, things have been pretty intense. I would say between November and February, it was some very difficult energies to navigate. I've just been sticking with doing events and workshops. I do sessions. I do astrology and tarot and clairvoyant readings. But yeah, navigating the energetic terrain that we're up against has definitely had its ups and downs, and lots of interesting breakthroughs and epiphanies, and just continuing with connecting dots and taking care of my children and just trying to keep myself on board with my own energy work. And yeah, it's been good though. I have to say I've met some amazing people along the way and had some unbelievable clever strategic attacks that I have moved through, and I always let it strengthen me. But yeah, it's been quite a ride so far.
You know, Eddie and Walt and I were talking about this, that anybody in this field of, you know, psychic and paranormal and even just conspiracy theory, a lot of people think we're just full of crap or even a bit crazy, which we might be. But when people like us that really open the door to the truth, I want to go back and find out where your truth began, of knowing a lot of information and decided to share with the world. When did that start for you?
Especially information that is so almost counterintuitive to what mass consciousness believes.
Or mainstream, for that matter.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, my journey started at a really young age. I was aware of my mission as a child, and I always felt I had a lot I needed to share. And I actually always felt, based on what I was witnessing in the world, and just the programmings and the corruption and the darkness and just the degradation of our environment and just all the manipulations I was very sensitive to. I just had this little inner voice keep telling me, you know how to get us out of this mess. And so I just sort of followed that internal guidance and really worked on, well, I went on a really, really deep internal journey, which was kind of like the journey of the labyrinth. And it really helped me to understand things related to our ancient history and mythologies, where this particular journey was a great necessity. And so alongside that, just being in the Eisenhower family really triggered a lot of questions about ET government treaties. You know, what are all these rumors, you know, about extraterrestrials working with our governments? And that wasn't enough for me. I'm like, okay, well, let's go into our galactic history. And that's where I really started to do the research and began to connect dots between, I guess you could say, the more mythological and the more exopolitical, and what's playing out on the world stage in relation to these things. You know, what are we being told? What are we not being told? What stories have been manipulated, and what are we being presented with, and how is it affecting us? And are we thriving, or are we becoming more and more limited and more immersed or merged with this artificial matrix where our freedoms are being compromised and our health is being compromised? And so when I got involved with this recruitment to Mars in 2006, and it really started to help me even to connect more dots and understand the nature of what's going on behind the scenes, you know, more in the shadow government, then it was like everything really opened up. And the process of me pulling out of it and just what that entailed and what I learned along the way, eventually there was a point in which it was time to speak. It was time to share. And I didn't want to push it, but I really set that intention. And then everything started to fall into place. And my first interview was with Alfred Lambermont Weber. And from there, it was like, it just sort of took a life of its own. And I began to put presentations together to, you know, articulate and describe just my whole life journey and what I discovered with all these different aspects that I mentioned.
Well, let's talk about the recruitment to Mars.
Yeah.
How was you chosen?
Yeah, because my understanding was we're going to Mars with humans and such later this century. So yeah, this is interesting.
Right, and it seemed like a normal thing when I was presented to go that, yeah, we have that kind of curiosity as a human race to travel to the stars. I mean, we come from the stars, we're galactic beings, and I understood all that. And, you know, it sort of made sense that maybe there would be, you know, a mission to Mars, but there was so much secrecy surrounding it. And when I started to really feel into this particular agenda, there was something that was way off. My partner at the time was the person that was telling me all about it. And basically I met him at a gathering, and we met sort of in the normal way and formed a relationship. And I was living in DC at the time, and he was going to these secret meetings, and that's where I was being presented with this. And as I was observing him and getting more acquainted with the names and people he was associating with and the nature of this agenda, something didn't feel right, you know, and I realized that this isn't where I should be going, and that the mission that I was very aware of as a child was not in alignment with this, which has a lot to do with the window period we're in, you know, in our expansion into higher Earth energies. I mean, if we're going to go to the stars, let's do it, you know, not behind closed doors, you know, using millions of people's tax dollars with so many things that haven't been exposed yet, that the human race has not been told about. I just really felt this was an opportunity to call out some of this stuff and to, you know, stop the secrecy, you know, that was, that has been the conditions of what we've been up against as we voted, you know, have voted people into office, and you know, this illusion that we're dealing with a leadership that is looking out for our basic human rights, that's just not the case. And so I really wanted to just sort of uproot it and expose it for what it is, and then allow everything to sort of resettle, and then pursue these sort of missions in a way that feels more in alignment with, you know, integrity, you know, the positive timeline, and what humans deserve to know.
Wow.
Do you sometimes feel like you're a grain of sand against the world whenever you're doing some of this, Laura?
Yes, I have felt that way. And unfortunately, the grain has found other grains, and we're building a sandcastle now. And,
Good.
it's really wonderful. But yeah, when I was all alone in this and I didn't have Project Camelot to refer to, particularly during the time of the recruitment, I was just like, I only had my intuition to guide me and some prophetic dreams that really helped me. And then I took it upon myself to research all the names that I was hearing about through my partner. And then later finding out that he was sent specifically to this gathering to pull me in, I thought I just met him and I was just getting wrapped up in something I could easily get out of. And as I tried to get out of it, I realized, how set up this had been and how strategic they had been using things like quantum access technologies. I actually found out I was pre-targeted. And so it kind of explained, this feeling of having some sort of weaponry directed at me and just some sort of attention put on me that I couldn't really articulate to anybody because it wouldn't have made sense. And so when I was researching these names, after about 2 weeks of heavy researching, not really getting anything, I finally stumbled across something that linked their names with a lot of these sorts of things like psychotronic weaponry, mind control, MyLabs, artificial telepathy, and all these things that I felt were being used on my partner to make this mission happen. I wasn't affected by those things as much. I was more waking up to the fact that he was being used as bait to draw me in because I wasn't a part of any of these projects as a child. And I'm super rebellious. I can tell when I'm being attacked. I can tell when I'm being manipulated. Not to say that I haven't fallen into some traps here and there. Sometimes you have to kind of realize what's going on.
Right.
But yeah, it was extremely difficult because, it kind of reminded me of what Ike must have gone through. I mean, you're making decisions that are going to impact a lot of people. And this seemed to be related to Alternative 3, which is about the colonization on Mars, which was presented in the Eisenhower administration. And it started off, a decent agenda, I think, just about protecting the human genome and DNA in the event of catastrophes. But what it's turned into is them wanting to create a breakaway civilization, create new world order on Earth, hoard all these, advanced technologies and compromise us as humans. And it's like, there's no way I'm going to be a part of this. And it just took a lot for me to uncover the truth because I was hearing words like handler and, like you can have a handler too. And I'm like, wait a second here, and just all these, different key words that, allowed me to see that, this is a group that isn't just investigating UFO phenomenon, which is how they presented themselves. They're linked to the CIA, they're linked to MJ-12, and they are, the people that have their hands on the alien technology. And, the thing is, a lot of people are programmed in those projects to believe that they're really serving humanity. It's patriotic programming. So a lot of people don't even know that they're supporting something that isn't benefiting the human race. And we're on a very powerful planet. I mean, we have a lot to look forward to in this window period. And I just really had to kind of go back into what I knew my mission was all about and really stand up for the truth and bring out information to inspire people and to educate people about what true ascension really is without all the new age overlays and all the distortions that we see that, kind of cause people to maybe look the other way because it sounds like a bunch of BS.
With all that you've just mentioned, because you've just laid out a gigantic skeleton, is there any way you can put a little meat on it and be a little more specific or concrete? Give it like with some examples that might be that we might be able to digest.
Well, you mean as far as the Mars recruitment?
You can answer it any way you want. Yeah. Or the entities or agendas or whatever. Yeah.
Well, and that's where I went back into studying galactic history because it's like, okay, well, how did it get to this point? What is this agenda about? Who are the characters involved, and what are their what are their origins about? And I studied timelines, I studied stargates, and I had a lot of my research match a lot of the intuitive hits I was getting as a child. I knew that I was preparing for the window period that we're in. And it has everything to do with the natural stargates opening and us upgrading our DNA and being able to inwardly shift in order to move into higher Earth energies. And so alongside this is artificial timelines, which are more constructed to put us on a trajectory that is more about an agenda that specific beings have for their own agenda and needs based on their own survival. And so we're dealing with races that in our ancient history compromised their DNA on purpose. Certain rebellions happened And their goal was to kind of steer us further and further away from our connection with spirit and our connection with our multidimensional energy. When we sank into lower density because of the cataclysms that happened in these higher civilizations, we were very vulnerable because now we were subjected to sort of a life-death cycle in order to upgrade our DNA over the course of many, many years instead of, having it like we used to when we were in these advanced civilizations. It's taken a lot longer than it should have taken because of this infiltration. And basically, they're not able to plug directly into spirit. They've compromised their DNA. So now, when we look at the future timelines, we're dealing with time-traveling beings that are coming back to get their genetic material through abductions and set up these scenarios and timelines so that they can stay in control and so that they can sort of feed on us in order to have flesh, in order to survive and exist.
And Laura, can you give us an example of when you say them and they? I think we're all on the same page here, but for Tony's audience,
right.
Who are they? Who are them? And from history and then currently, if that feels comfortable for you.
Yeah, well, we're dealing with a free will universe, and so as life was being seeded in the time matrix, some of the founder races that helped to seed life in the time matrix, higher dimensional ET races and angelics. I mean, one could say that they're the same, but I'm going to leave that to people to decide. Some became fallen and digressed, and that's where, I was sharing about compromising their DNA on purpose. The Anunnaki is an example of extraterrestrials that came to Earth at a later stage and desired to create a slave race in order to serve them. And they created hybrids that are now what we know as the global elite or the Illuminati or the Cabal. And basically these entities, which I just call negative ego service to self entities, because that kind of takes out the confusion.
That's good. That's really good.
Because that's unplugged from source. And when we run our own negative ego, I think we can see that we're not operating from our higher wisdom. And, we create all sorts of issues in our lives. And the only thing that we really have is manipulation on our side instead of the flow of nature and, more benevolent forces that can help us to manifest miracles. It's sort of pushing against something that's natural because it's more about force and it's more about aggression and just getting one's way, which is a very strong negative ego vibration. And so as we see in our power structures in the world, a lot of them have that mentality. That's why they've been easily possessed, on top of the fact that there's, hybridization. There was a rebellion early in our galactic history in connection with trying to heal those lines, and they refused to have a healing done. And the healing had to do with bringing in a higher consciousness and linking it with the reptilian DNA. And reptilian DNA is a lower octave of the dragon energy. When we raise our vibration or we ignite our kundalini, we tend to move out of the reptilian mindset and we connect with our higher self, and we begin to clear our chakras. They don't want to do that. They're cut off, so they want to keep us addicted and locked into the matrix. And that's where all the false flags and all the manipulations in the media, are part of the bait to program us and capture us. And then when we see weather modification, GMOs and chemtrails and stuff like that, that is very difficult for us to assimilate if we're in low density thinking, which is what the programmings are there to do. It's kind of like biting the bait. And then when this other stuff is happening, we can't transmute it or alchemize it because we're still in low density. If we can unplug from it all, we can expand ourselves and actually not be so affected by these assaults. And so it's kind of a race against, it's kind of like showdown time.
You mentioned a window. So, when did it open and when is it going to close?
Well, the window period supposedly from 2000 to 2017, and I think it's more about just getting a handle on it all. I don't think it's about, waking up and all of a sudden we're avatars. It's a slow process of rehabilitation. But I think once you decide you're on board, once you recognize the programmings, once you're on a path of healing, once you are, stepping up to your role, you're already on track. The more we the more we put our heads in the sand and push away the information and stay locked into the matrix programmings, the harder it's going to be to receive the strong light codes that are coming from the galactic core right now.
So let's go backwards just for a second. First of all, you're fascinating. This is my first time getting to hear you.
Likewise.
And I'm having a great time, by the way.
Thank you.
That's number one. Number two, so let's go back. You said the higher earth windows, great question, Walt, is opened around 2000, and it's going to be open through 2017. So let's look at what happened on the Earth plane around 1999, 2000, 2001.
George Bush.
Yeah, and
that's 2009-11.
Yeah, and that's when everything really we started to feel in the United States, especially the most powerful country in the world. Ha ha ha! What a joke. Started becoming really compromised. So we start to see the demise of economy and aspects of military and a lot of politics and a lot of charlatan energy in that. Is that kind of also what you mean by the reptilian DNA, meaning to sort of bring the mass mind, the mass consciousness, Laura, down to a more dense way of thinking? So part of that now today in 2015 is, so they're taking away more jobs. There's less money. There's more poverty than there's ever been. There's less water than there's ever been. And so as we dumb people down and sort of beat their spirit down, then they have more control over the mass consciousness. Is that sort of what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's their way of gaining the upper hand, these sort of manipulations. And basically they want to steer us into this timeline that's, based on, what 9/11 may have caused, which is fear and, connecting with more dependency on our governments as leaders to stop the war on terror. But it also shot them in the foot because everybody's like, wait a second, buildings don't collapse like that. Wait a second, what about Building 7? And the architects and engineers are like, oh, I'm sorry, but we were educated in these fields, and that is not how it's supposed to happen. So it also helped to open us up. And it's kind of like the tower card, where everything kind of crumbles, but something can be rebuilt. And our free will has to kind of pick it up from there and say, okay, well, what choices are you going to make? What are you going to align with? Because this is the time, to really open our eyes. And these agendas have been in the works for a long time. These are all their strategic plans. And so, it's either addicting us to the matrix and rewarding us for it, or compromising us if we are on a path of awakening, and we could be influential, which is why I was partially targeted to go off planet, because they could see with their technologies what I'd be doing in the future. It's related to bloodlines, but also a lot of the work I do, connected to Gaia Sophia and even the Christ Sophia consciousness, not with the biblical or religious overlays or the New Age programmings, but, just some real stuff that I've been in touch with for a long time that helps us to understand our divine blueprint and what we're unfolding into.
So can I jump in here? I'm an intuitive. I'm a soul intuitive. I've been doing psychic readings, and the word psychic is so small today in today's vernacular. And so I love tuning into energy. In order for me to successfully do what I do from an authentic platform, I have to be in touch with my feelings. I have to be in touch with my non-physical attributes, my intuition, my higher self, my heart chakra, all of my chakras, as it were. So the higher earth windows, we've talked a little bit about the reptilians and some of the more dense ETs that came in as sort of mass manipulating us. The angelics, what I feel like I'm hearing you say, and I'm okay, I don't care if I'm wrong. That's why I love talking to people like you to help me understand. So would some of the angelic energies coming in, some of the more master teachers, as you're talking about the Christ energy, that is about us getting back in touch with our non-physical essence, which is our soul, our higher selves. I think that's your terminology. And as we do, then we are guided into a higher way, despite what the physical manipulation of some of the leaders are trying to do.
Yes, and that's why I call myself a global alchemist, because it's not just all light, love, and fluff and just have positive thoughts and just make it go away. We have to get into the lead to turn it into gold. We have to go into, our own darkness and clear it out of controllers and manipulations and programmings and conditionings and ancestral patterns. And we need to expose and reveal, the stuff that's been going on in the shadows. And a lot of that kind of stuff people don't want to look at and kind of turn the other way. But if some of us are doing that, that's kind of enough to plant a seed of light, to purify that zone, to hold space for others that'll eventually get there as we plant seeds in them. And then what ends up happening is, people go through these massive initiations, and if they can move through it and maybe get assistance, which is what I do, and others like you that are doing readings and such, and they can go through that initiation and come out the other end more transformed, that's great. If people start to enter that zone and they go into fear, they go into panic, they have nervous breakdowns, they feel suicidal, and they start to go to the doctors and the medical industries and the traps out there. I'm not saying it's all bad, by the way, but if we start to drug ourselves with pharmaceuticals and start to think of ourselves as, okay, this is nuts, this is crazy, what am I going through? Then we're falling into the trap of all the projections that are out there and all the programmings that are out there that are trying to halt these initiations so that we continue to give our power away when we need ourselves the most.
I can even elaborate on that. I mean, starting in the 40s, they started putting fluoride in our water, which has dumbed us down big time.
Yeah, and we can break through all that. I mean, consciousness can trump anything. I mean,
Sure.
Our connection to spirit, fortunately, when we think of DNA upgrading or repairing damaged DNA, particularly if we inherited it and we're like, oh, I'm just stuck with it. It's amazing, what we're able to restore. But we have to go in there and see, like, okay, where did it originate? What is the behavior pattern connected to this physical symptom? Our bodies are the greatest teachers. I mean, they tell us what's wrong, but we call it disease. I call it like, hey, it's a messenger.
Yep.
It's a good sign, something's trying to tell you something, and people, just start to own it. And it's the same sort of thing with the news and the false flags. They start to own, this war on terror. They start to own, the underwear bomber. So they're going to walk through the TSA, device.
Yeah, exactly.
And whatever is presented to us in the news is the story that they're going to go with. And it's hard for people to wake up to the fact that we're being this deceived. But
Yes.
we have all the potential in the world because of what we're made of. We just have a lot of dormant DNA strands that are waiting to be activated. But our consciousness and our willingness to expand ourselves and unify and do the inner work is the prerequisite.
And if I may add, Laura, we are all, every single human on the planet, every one of us came from non-physical to physical first. As you pointed out, we're all made of that stardust energy, which means we're all unlimited potential. We're all powerful. We're filled with hope and faith and an inner knowing that we can truly create and do anything on the earth plane. And what's happening right now is there's more people starting to feel hopeless and powerless than ever before who don't have this information available to them just now to open their mind, to open their heart, to open their instincts, their intuition, and their higher frequencies to the information you're giving so that they can start tiptoeing back into, and sometimes quantum leaping, back into feeling hopeful and powerful again.
Right. And that's why, I do consultations and sessions, because if I'm going to put this sort of stuff out there and somebody's feeling like, okay, well, what do I need to do? I mean, I want to make myself as available as possible. People also have to understand that if they feel a lot of pressure, like, oh my gosh, I have to move through all this crazy energy. I don't know what to trust. I don't know what to believe. There's disinformation and there's, false teachers. And it's everywhere we turn. It's like the light and dark both hold distortions, and it's the other way around too. And so we have to understand that the planet Venus, for the last 26,000 years, has been drawing a perfect pentagram in the sky. Astronomers and astrologers have tracked it, and it's been doing this incredible sacred geometry in the sky. And when we think about it, that's related to the heart. And so that's physical proof that something's happening in the cosmos that's pretty wild. And the Mayans understood the Venus transits, and the Venus transits have led us right into this window period. And that's when things really started to get activated is, the last Venus transit in 2011, we moved into the window period of 2012. And here we are just sort of trying to make sense out of it all. And so if it gets really difficult for people, the best thing to do is to understand that it's already happening on a cosmic level. The most important thing is to recognize where your energy is at all times. What are the things that constrict you? What are the things that feel blocking to you? And work on releasing it and just open yourself up, to what's coming in. And that'll be a strong enough vibration to know what to let go of. And you can do different exercises, writing, painting, all sorts of things to bring out what's been internalized for so long. And also, how you're relating to a lot of the different stuff that's coming at us and kind of get a grip on it. We don't have to get lost in the information. I mean, it's just important to know that a game's being played, and the best we can do is just pull away from it and turn to ourselves a little bit more and do a little bit of research, maybe a lot, to unwind from it, and then really focus on the energy, because we need to make our physical bodies prepared to be able to integrate and assimilate, these light codes that are coming in. But we also need to, make sure our perspectives and our belief systems are serving us and our health and well-being, so that these assaults and attacks don't get the best of us.
I love that information. If you're just tuning in right now, you're listening to Truth Be Told. I'm Eddie Connor.
I'm Tony Sweet.
And I'm Walt Lusk.
And we have with us Laura Eisenhower, who's an intuitive astrologist, global alchemist, and cosmic mythologist. She's also the great-granddaughter of Dwight D. Eisenhower. She's on a profound mission. If, as you can hear, and if you're just tuning in, you're going to have your socks blown off. She's here to reveal our true origins that are connected to the Magdalene energy and the Gaia Sophia energies, which is about love and wisdom. She's always working to liberate us also from the military industrial complex. I love simplicity, Laura, and I love what you're saying because you're giving us the bare bones. And again, Walt, that was a great question because you're saying you've given us the skeleton. Now put some meat on the skeleton, and now we're into the inner workings of the bloodline within the skeleton that you're building for us, Laura, and we appreciate that. And because I was really slow in school, I ain't scared to say it, okay? I was slow. I didn't, and I bet you were too, Laura. I bet in school.
Unbelievable. I couldn't pay attention. I had ADD, but it's attention on different dimensions.
Same, exactly. Hey, girl, you need to make a T-shirt. You really do. That's such a flawless idea. And I was the same because everything they were teaching us, we all know instinctively when something feels off, period. And what I was reading about Native Americans in school, even in the 4th and 5th grade, I knew was off. I knew what we were taught about certain aspects of military. I knew it was wrong. It didn't feel right to me. And feelings create 99.99.9% of our lives on planet Earth. Our action, our words, our effort, our hard work, our bullying, our pushing against other people only creates less than 1%. So I love what you're bringing to the table, Laura, because what you're reminding us of doing as a global alchemist is to get back in touch with our feelings, because that can transmute and transform and change everything in quantum leap ways, especially while we got the higher earth windows open. Okay.
Yeah, totally. Oh my gosh.
So what do we have to look forward to? So the higher earth window, it looks like it's sort of closing and or transforming around 2017. In your professional opinion, what do we have to look forward to right now between 2015 and the time the window closes?
Well, I think we have to look forward to more magic and synchronicities, and the way that everything is kind of showing up for us, and to pay attention to the negatives and positives, and to realize that they're both assisting us, and to kind of get out of a dualistic thinking so that we can navigate in a very conscious way. And what we have to look forward to is, more unification, more empowerment of ourselves, more heart opening. I mean, that's what this shift is doing for us. We're upgrading our DNA. We're going to notice abilities that we didn't even know existed. But we also have an election coming up in 2016.
No.
And so I'm taking action here because I think this is critical that we educate as many as possible about who these candidates are. And it's a great time to push more of this information, definitely not in a fear-based way, but in a way that might invite them into understanding the nature of what this shift is about in a positive way.
Truly. One thing that scares me is everybody feels they're informed, but they're all getting it from the same source, and it's all the same. I mean, all the major mainstream media entities are all owned by 6-7 corporations, and they feel they're getting informed, but they're all getting it from the same source, and it's the same stuff, and they're just getting fed junk.
So how can we give them inspired heart formation?
Yeah. Well, I mean, to keep doing what we're doing, I mean, hopefully the numbers will grow. I'm launching a website with my friend Madison, and it's called Justice Twins because our vision is so similar. And we're creating action plans and missions for people to participate in worldwide to distribute information to those that, particularly in this country, are about ready to vote for Hillary Clinton. And so it might mean that we order cases and cases of Kathy O'Brien's book about the mind control she endured under Hillary Clinton, and bring people more into the awareness of the fact that these projects still exist. I mean, I'm not here to sugarcoat it. I mean,
Please
until
don't.
after
Please don't.
the fact, for people, it's like, if you're going to go vote this person into office and you think it's fear-based to share the truth about who these individuals are, it's fear-based that you're voting for them and you're not even looking, because you're so afraid of the truth. You're so afraid of falling back on yourself and empowering yourself that's where the real fear lies. Denial is the ultimate fear. So yeah, it's scary and difficult information to process, but once we get a grip on it and turn our attention off of them, instead of battling the system and fighting the system, where we can all link up and build a new paradigm and have it be more about the skills and abilities we share together, empowering ourselves to be leaders, finding our own authenticity and uniqueness, and then bringing that into unity. We're not going to be bringing in all these programmings and distortions that create wars and conflict, because we've inherited it. We've been conditioned to hold that against each other. And so the way to do it, I mean, I'm going to... This website is going to be a big way to involve people, but I'm going to continue, doing the public speaker stuff. I'm going to DC in September. I'm going to make a lot of noise there, and find ways to reach, larger groups. And then if I really notice that that's not really working, I trust that some sort of urgency will enter my being and some epiphany will show up just in the nick of time to maybe do something even more. Maybe, I'm slowly trying to get my family more involved, because, the Eisenhower clan, definitely we're all on the same page, but a lot of this stuff is way over their head. And, but I'd like to see what kind of contacts or opportunities I can find, in those circles, that can help to dismantle it from the inside out.
And right now, and what I am not asking you is this. I'm not asking you to tell us who to vote for, but I am asking you, based on what you know now, is there anybody that us like-minded people can be looking out for so we can pay attention to their information? We'll feel our way through it, and if it also feels good in our heart chakra, then we'll start putting our attention on that and educate our friends. So is there somebody right now that's sort of in the running, Laura, that you can sort of tip us off to?
Well, Andrew Bishago, my colleague and friend who actually was a part of Project Pegasus, he was actually taken to Mars as a child. His story is unbelievable. He's planning on running for president. I think we need to support the truth that he's going to reveal, but not to steer away from it. I think the whole system's corrupt, and I think anybody who puts themselves in the White House runs the risk of just putting themselves in a kind of danger that I don't think we fully understand. There's cloning technologies, there's manipulations that we can't even imagine. We don't even know what happens once you enter that arena. And so if Andrew Bishago's on the campaign trail, I would pay attention to him and what he's doing. But more importantly, I think it's really important that we really do start our own system, because the government as we know it, that model doesn't work.
No.
We need to, really, create a new one. And even if the numbers are small, there are ways around, really unplugging on a legal level from the system where, we can, all work together. And the thing is, nature and just these cosmic forces are on our side, spirits on our side. And the magic and synchronicities, is not going to let us down. We're not where we were, decades ago and hundreds of years ago. We have the upper hand. It's like when a person gets a grip on a sickness and they finally have truly activated their immune system, it's all downhill from there. And so I see that on a human level where, if enough of us gets a grip on it and we are able to inspire people to raise their awareness and consciousness and vibration, then the immune system has the upper hand and we wipe out the disease. The system is the disease, but they're able to use technologies and they're able to feed on us. That's why they stay alive, and that's, what's actually infiltrating everything and taking it over just like a disease would.
This is such fascinating information. And again, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Truth Be Told.
I'm Tony Sweet.
I'm Eddie Connor.
And I'm Walt Lusk.
And we have Laura Eisenhower on the call with us. A lot of what you're saying, for new listeners that might just be tuning in, some of it is, some people would say weird. Some people would say it's freaky. Some people would go, oh my God, it's a conspiracy theorist. But the truth is, most people aren't open. Their minds and hearts aren't open enough beyond what they've been fed and told what to believe.
And that's one of the reasons why we're here, is because mainstream media is so controlled, they did not expect alternative radio and internet radio to be having the impact it is.
Which is why it's exploded the way that it is.
Absolutely.
And and this goes back to you too, Laura, and other like-minded beings who are coming from a high frequency perspective in order to heal and uplift and educate people on the earth plane. And that is, there's always a place for every one tiny negative thing. There's 10 billion avenues for spirit or higher self energy like you to come forth and seep through the cracks and then create a lush rainforest of information.
Yes. And I just have to say, I wake up every morning in shock. I don't like, all this stuff that we're revealing. I mean, this isn't like, oh, guess what, everybody? I got some news for you. Like, I'm
Right.
skipping along merrily, happily sharing it. It's like, I've gone through so many intense processes. I can't tell you how many times I've broken down, going into the rabbit hole, dismantling this stuff, pulling it apart, connecting dots, and it's like, I wake up, feeling like how other people might feel when they hear it for the first time about what I'm witnessing in the world, looking at the sky, seeing them being sprayed, looking at the media, looking at, the role models for our children. That to
Right.
me is crazy. That to me is shocking. So you can be shocked all you want,
Absolutely.
people, about the information, but look around you, look at the world you've acclimated to.
And
It is pretty sick. And one of my favorite quotes is, it's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a sick society. So, and I'm not
t-shirt.
saying that to be, rude or anything. I have nothing but compassion. That's why I do what I do, and I make myself available. But I just want to say, it's not easy for us. We've had to go through a lot to be able to handle this and to be able to speak about it. And it's what we have to do. And yes, it's crazy. It's crazy across the board, but it is what it is.
there's two kinds of crazy. There's informative, authentic, integrous, sincere, from the heart to another human being to uplift them, crazy information that's unfamiliar to certain people. And then there's the jerks that are running things.
Right.
Crazy. And being complacent and allowing them to do that. Now, I think it's fascinating, too, everything we're speaking about. There was a time when no one spoke about UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
No one spoke about ETs. No one spoke about ghosts and dead people, and I see dead people. So luckily, that's becoming almost a daily norm.
Well, look at History Channel, how
Yep.
Ancient Aliens
Oh,
took
God, yeah.
off. It definitely changed the way we look at things.
And so because we have that momentum, it's sort of tilted, the fulcrum has turned. I think not only are you on the leading edge with your information,
The bleeding edge.
yeah, there you go, the bleeding edge of this information, but I also feel like people will just, I don't know why, I instinctively feel like people will start waking up. So I love what we're talking about here. Keep sharing your story is one of the things I heard you say. And if each of us keep sharing our instinct, our intuition, our integrous selves with other people, that turns the tide faster. Danny Glover had a great quote. He said, people respond to sincerity. And
Definitely.
and he was speaking about someone going in who was terrified, who was a Broadway star going in to audition for a movie. But it's applicable to everything we're talking about. I think they respond to sincerity, but I also think that they respond to light. And
Definitely.
I think
Definitely.
they respond to love. And I think they respond to your frequency, Laura, as you're sharing this.
Everybody's more starving for unconditional love than anything
Than
else.
ever before.
Anything else.
And,
Yeah,
and-
because
go ahead.
and that's why I bring in the spiritual component. And people might say, gosh, you talk about aliens, ETs, mythology, and then the spiritual stuff. How is it all, how can it all be, connected? And it's like, well, how could it not be? I mean, we're mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, galactic. I mean, that's what we are as multidimensional beings. So of course this planet is as well. And the same laws apply. When we're out of balance, we're fed on by parasitic forces. And, and when the planet's out of balance, the same thing happens. So we don't have to look very far to make sense out of it. We can just observe ourselves and see what happens when we fall into the negative ego, when we're out of balance, when we're not taking good care of ourselves. And, yeah, and so the love is everything. And so that's why I focus a lot on the spiritual component, because when, we look back to our ancient history, I mean, I think everybody, even if they don't believe it, knows that the reason Atlantis fell was because there was too much emphasis on technology and not enough on spiritual development. That all got cut off, and
Exactly. What
we
we're
lost
doing now.
connection with that, and so planets exploded and civilizations collapsed, and now they're preparing to collapse certain portions of it, and working behind the scenes to keep theirs, functioning and thriving, while, we're, very compromised. And, love is everything. Love is how a child thrives. I mean, we need that unconditional love. And that's why I focus so much on the divine feminine and masculine. And really, it's not biblical. I don't get this stuff from teachings. My background's in wilderness expedition leadership. I spent a lot of time in nature. I went on this deep labyrinth journey where I was, going through like stuff that I can't even begin to describe, but I am writing a book people can read. And, once you find that source of unconditional love within yourself, or you recognize it around you, which is what is coming into us from the galactic core, because we're in alignment with it now, because we've been kind of off center because of these catastrophes. It's like the earth has been getting itself back into balance and alignment, just like we are. And so that allows the reconnection to happen. And so when we start to feel that love, it softens us and it warms us up and it makes us feel safe. And when we're not feeling into that love, we're defensive, we're aggressive, we're in our negative ego. And that is where things have been because of these agendas, because that's what they're encouraging. It's all about the negative ego, and anything that's positive is more based on status, how much money you have and how successful you are in the world. And we lose sight of, what real success and real abundance is, which is, beautiful friendships and relationships, great health and well-being, and being able to pull all sorts of things out of your hat when you need it most, because you have the power of manifestation at your fingertips. I mean, people are wanting security from a system that has no true security. Right. And we have to, so if people are losing their jobs or things are getting uprooted and it feels uncomfortable, look at it like a very positive miracle, because it's teaching you how to fall back on yourself and trust and count on something that's organic and real and infinite. And that's where the true path exists.
The heart will always take you back to freedom if you listen to it.
Well, Laura, I'm going to ask this as a ADD curiosity, and I hope I can ask this correctly. This is actually to you and Eddie as intuitives. Your guides, your spirit guides, versus these beings, which you would think that would be a little more advanced spiritually, but it sounds like some of these beings are not. So
you're referring to non-physical entities,
right? So my question is when your guides come through to it's almost like a spiritual warfare in a way, but I want to find out, when your guides come to you, what do they tell you about the entities and aliens that are not for their best interest, or even the New World Order type of thing?
Well, what I'm getting is, we're dealing with archangels and archdemons. We're dealing with duality. So we have both light and dark. When we think of the Watchers and we think of those who are, kind of steering humanity in a certain direction, I mean, not everybody's got the same agenda.
Right.
There's beings that are all about control and domination, and there's beings that are all about helping us with our spiritual development. And those entities and beings are also, we could see them as extraterrestrials. We could see them as, demons or angels. That's why I said archangels, archdemons, because if we look at the arch part of it, that's archons. Archons means ruler. The byproduct of this duality, though, creates these kind of mind parasites, or entities that, latch onto us when we are at a weak point or we're not in balance, and it tends to, make things a little bit more difficult. So what I'm getting is that, we need to embrace our light and dark, the true light and dark. The dark is the mother womb. It's the fertility of the land. It's the soil. It's that, that ability to receive the seeds of higher consciousness and birth new worlds. If we stayed just in the light, it wouldn't work. If we stayed just in the dark, it wouldn't work. But it's not about good and evil. We had to go through this good and evil stuff with the tree of knowledge to know that we're being manipulated and being deceived. Once we have a grip on that, then it's not about light and dark. It's about, or good and evil as light and dark. It's about the organic light and dark that's within us that we can work with to be powerful creators. We've been locked in this stuff where it's the duality of good and evil, where a lot of it has been masked and presented to us in theater and facades that trick us and, fool us, where we give our free will away. And, and it's in everything, religion, New Age teachings, and pretty much everywhere we turn. And that's the good and evil, and the good is us. The good is, going into ourselves and, loving ourselves, loving our partners, loving our children, loving just the earth. the evil is the things that are running the show that are damaging all that stuff. And so once we get a grip on it and we get back to ourselves, we can embrace the real polarity that's in a dance, not a power struggle.
And as we keep inspiring other people to get into that dance of light, that dance of the balance of the light and the dark, as you're referring to, then it's going to go out. It creates a ripple effect. It's sort of a quantum leap ripple effect that turns people on, and then they move back toward the light as well, meaning the light within themselves. And non-physical entities, they're like humans. There's high master teachers on the earth plane, and there's high master teachers in spirit. There's low dense humans on the earth plane, and there's some low dense beings in non-physical as well. But I feel like, tell me if you agree with this, Laura, and that is, once we attune our frequency, especially when we're doing healing work and readings and even information like this, we set forth an intention and we call in the big guns and the most balanced, evolved, enlightened, connected to source energy way, so that whatever comes out of our mouth is tied into our heartstrings so that people feel the sincerity of the message.
I love it.
All right. Well, we started a great conversation today. We really did. And so there's a lot of people that probably want to hear more of you. But,
Well, yeah.
And so you are going to be coming up with some workshops, and you're going to be at Contact in the desert. So can you tell us a little bit more about where you're going to be so people can come see you?
Well, I'm hoping everybody who is in the LA area or close, or even who can travel far and wide, will join us Saturday, May 16th from 11 to 6 p.m. In Los Angeles, California at the LAX Hilton. From 11 to 6, we've got speakers and a panel. We've got me, we have Sean Stone, Oliver Stone's son, who has the Buzzsaw show.
He'll be on next guest.
Yeah, he's up next.
He's our next guest.
I was on his show, just really amazing work, just really putting it out there. And Dean Ryan. Dean Ryan is a producer, writer, and radio personality. And
He's our
then
next
there's
guest.
Sharon Schloss, who is a geoengineering and anti-geoengineering activist, reason and writer from Los
He was a guest
Angeles.
on our former show, previous show, not too long ago.
Oh, that's awesome. And then Contact in the Desert's towards the end of the month. And that's going to be great. I'm doing 3 different things at that event. The dates are, I'm just about to get there, May 29th to 31st in Joshua Tree, California. You can go to my website, to find out about more events that I'll be doing.
And what is your website?
It's, I guess the W's are
obsolete now.
People already know that part. CosmicGaiaSophia.com. And that's CosmicGaiaSophia.com. And I will soon have LauraEisenhower.com, because I've noticed that is a bit of a mouthful, the other one.
Yay.
Well, we loved having you here. You are amazing. And we hope you come back and visit us again, and anytime you like, and you're always welcome to be on our show.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's been amazing being here.
Yeah.
All
Thanks,
right.
Laura.
Thank you, Laura. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Laura.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, before we take our break, I think we'll talk about what we just encountered. I was blown away by her information.
Oh, I am too. Mind blown.
It's entirely and totally different plane.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And that's the great thing about living on this plane, because we have access to all of them, don't we? Meaning we're multidimensional beings,
Right.
just because, we're flesh, bone, and blood in these meat suits, as they say in The Secret. We are first and foremost non-physical. And just because we're human doesn't mean we're not still non-physical energy.
Right.
So the soul that governs us is 99.99% of everything that creates the dis-ease on our planet with us, or the ease and connection with us. It's always up to us because we have free will. And I loved how she talked about freely extraterrestrials, angels, spirit guides, the higher self. Yeah, it's all interconnected. Hello.
Hello. Well, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have Sean Stone and Dean Ryan, and we have some topics that are going to blow you away.
So don't leave town.
Yes, don't go anywhere. If you leave town, just watch this later on YouTube or iTunes. All right, don't go anywhere. Truth Be Told with Tony Sweet,
Eddie Connor,
And Walt Lusk.
Be right back.